KJA Global Channel. The Political System in Me. Series 4, The Political System Across Every Sector of Society. Episode 50, Urban Life and Housing, Cities, Transport, Planning, and Public Health. A city is often described as buildings and lights. But a city is not buildings. A city is a promise. A promise that human life can be lived close together without collapsing into chaos. Through rules, services, planning, justice, and mutual respect. A city is where the political system becomes physical. I once thought urban life was mainly a lifestyle choice. But urban life is governance. Housing is not only a commodity. Housing is dignity. Urban planning is therefore not merely technical. It is moral. This is where our question begins. Is the city designed for human life, or for extraction, exclusion, and elite convenience? Planning decides who is protected and who is sacrificed. Who lives near work? Who travels for hours? Who receives clean water? Who breathes polluted air? Who has a park? Who lives beside waste? This episode is about cities, housing, transport, planning, sanitation, accessibility, and public health. Because as nations urbanize, democracy is tested not mainly in speeches, but in streets. A city that works fairly is democracy you can walk inside. A city that fails becomes a daily humiliation that teaches citizens the state does not care. The system reveal is urban planning, housing, transport, and health. The city is the most intense form of the political system. Space itself is governed. In plain language, the hidden mechanism is urban planning, housing, transport, and health. Housing is the foundation of urban dignity. Transport is time. Planning is the political art of space. Public health is the condition that makes city life survivable. In urban life, the political system touches you through rent, traffic, water, waste, noise, safety, air, distance, and time. Urban life magnifies competence and corruption. It reveals whether the political system can manage complexity with fairness. Housing policy begins with a basic question. Can ordinary people live near opportunity without surrendering most of their income, dignity, or security? A just housing system recognizes ownership, rental, cooperative and social housing, customary occupation, and informal settlement. Informal settlements are often called illegal. But many are simply abandoned settlements, communities built where formal systems failed to provide affordable land, transport, services, or lawful access. Calling people illegal does not solve the institutional failure that produced their exclusion. Upgrading may be more just and practical than removal. Water, sanitation, drainage, roads, lighting, legal recognition, and secure tenure can transform risk without destroying community networks. Eviction without alternatives is not urban policy. It is cruelty disguised as planning. Where relocation is genuinely necessary, people need notice, consultation, compensation, accessible services, livelihood continuity, and a lawful place to go. Housing affordability must be measured against income, transport cost, utilities, safety, and access to work and school. Cheap housing far from opportunity may become expensive isolation. Land use planning decides what can be built, where, at what density, and for whose benefit. It can reduce congestion, protect green space, support public transport, prevent hazards, and expand housing. Or it can preserve privilege, inflate land values, displace communities, and reward speculation. Zoning is therefore not neutral. Every map contains choices about power. Planning should use evidence about population, housing demand, transport, flood risk, heat, public services, disability access, and environmental impact. It should also include those who live with the consequences. Residents, renters, workers, informal settlers, persons with disabilities, businesses, children, older people, and future users of the city. Participation must occur before the decision is fixed. A hearing after contracts are signed is not participation. Transport is not just mobility. Transport is time. And time is life. A long commute reduces time for family, rest, education, civic participation, and health. Safe and affordable transport expands freedom. It connects people to work, school, clinics, markets, courts, and public life. Good transport policy balances walking, cycling, buses, rail, shared systems, freight, private vehicles, road safety, and accessibility. A city designed only for cars becomes hostile to children, older people, low-income residents, and anyone who cannot drive. Transport pricing also reveals priorities. Fares, tolls, fuel policy, parking subsidies, route design, and public investment determine who receives mobility and who pays for it. Accessibility is not an optional feature. Streets, stations, buildings, toilets, signs, crossings, and information systems should be usable by persons with disabilities and people with different needs. A city that cannot be navigated by all its citizens is not fully public. Water, sanitation, drainage, waste, and public health form the hidden foundation of urban life. Failed water, drainage, waste, or sewage systems return as disease, flooding, pollution, and neighborhood danger. Public health is not only hospitals. It is clean water, safe food, air quality, housing conditions, vector control, heat protection, open space, sanitation, and emergency response. Cities govern the very air people breathe. Poor communities often face the highest exposure to pollution, traffic danger, industrial risk, flooding, and heat. Urban justice therefore asks who carries environmental and health costs. It asks whether one neighborhood's comfort is built on another neighborhood's suffering. Procurement is another major test. Cities spend public money on roads, housing, transport, water, lighting, parks, waste, and digital systems. Hidden contracts can turn urban development into a corruption machine. Transparent procurement can turn it into a dignity machine. Contracts should reveal cost, ownership, evaluation, deadlines, design changes, performance, and payment, while audits test legality, safety, quality, accessibility, value, and public benefit. Digital systems can improve planning and delivery, but cameras, cards, identity tools, apps, and sensors can also create surveillance, exclusion, discrimination, and opaque decisions. Data collection should be necessary, secure, proportionate, explainable, and reviewable. Local government is central. Cities need authority, revenue, professional staff, planning capacity, and democratic accountability. But empowered cities must not become local patronage kingdoms. Authority must be balanced by records, oversight, participation, audits, and courts. Federal democracy requires clear division of responsibility among national, regional, metropolitan, municipal, and neighborhood institutions. Ambiguity can allow every level to blame another while services fail. To understand urban life and housing, follow the rights chain. Right or legitimate interest, law or constitutional rule, responsible institution, complaint or review, hearing and evidence, remedy, enforcement. Right or legitimate interest asks what human claim is at stake. Housing, mobility, water, sanitation, health, accessibility, participation, safety, property, or freedom from arbitrary eviction. Law or constitutional rule asks where the right, standard, duty, and limit are defined. Responsible institution asks which housing authority, transport body, planning office, utility, municipality, health department, court, or contractor must act. Complaint or review asks where a resident can challenge eviction, unsafe housing, denied service, inaccessible transport, unlawful planning, or procurement abuse. Hearing and evidence ask what maps, plans, contracts, budgets, inspections, health data, consultation records, and testimonies exist. Remedy asks what can repair the harm. Service restoration, compensation, safer design, relocation support, contract correction, access, policy change, or lawful protection. Enforcement asks who makes the remedy real and what happens if the responsible institution refuses. A broken outcome may begin far upstream. The visible harm may be eviction, flooding, unsafe transport, contaminated water, inaccessible streets, unaffordable rent, or disease. But the deeper failure may be an unjust plan, hidden contract, captured planning board, missing data, unfunded service, weak inspection, or remedy that exists only on paper. The chain prevents us from reducing urban failure to one mayor, one contractor, or one neighborhood. It identifies where law, capacity, evidence, participation, oversight, remedy, or enforcement stopped working. When citizens and professionals locate that break, criticism becomes more accurate and reform becomes more practical. For this episode, the principal mechanism is urban planning, housing, transport, and health. The production graphic must make every link readable on a phone screen and label country-specific or proposed arrangements honestly. Under dictatorship, urban life follows concentrated command, information is restricted, redevelopment serves power, and planning can become removal, surveillance, segregation, and elite land capture. In a fragile democracy, formal rules may coexist with patronage, corruption, weak records, speculative pressure, unfunded plans, symbolic consultation, unequal services, and poor enforcement. In a functioning federal democracy, authority is distributed, common rights remain enforceable, and courts, councils, planning bodies, utilities, auditors, media, communities, and residents contest urban power. No democratic design is self-executing. The viewer should compare who decides, how authority was obtained, whether records are public, whether affected people participate, and whether local oversight and remedy exist in practice. Protection becomes durable only when urban governance is converted into rules, responsibilities, records, and remedies. The minimum guardrails are: 1. Inclusive land use and housing policy. Planning should expand secure, affordable, well-located housing while preventing arbitrary eviction, segregation, and speculative exclusion. 2. Safe and affordable transport. Mobility systems should reduce travel burden, protect pedestrians and passengers, connect opportunity, and remain accessible to people with different needs. 3. Water, sanitation, waste, and public health systems. Essential urban services should be funded, maintained, monitored, and distributed according to need in equal dignity. 4. Transparent planning and procurement. Plans, zoning changes, contracts, ownership, budgets, consultations, design changes, and performance records should be public and reviewable. 5. Participatory local oversight and remedy. Residents need safe participation, accessible complaint routes, independent review, local audits, and enforceable correction. These safeguards work as a system. Housing policy without transport can isolate people. Transport without accessibility excludes citizens. Services without procurement transparency can become corruption. Participation without records can become theater. And remedy without enforcement does not repair harm. Global relevance. Across political labels, ask who controls land, who receives housing and services, whose time is protected, what records exist, and whether correction is real. Myanmar relevance. Use ordinary lived experience only where it clarifies the mechanism. Do not treat one authority, city, municipality, community, developer, or proposed arrangement as the whole country. Separate existing institutions from interim systems, local practices, humanitarian realities, political commitments, and aspirational federal designs. Here is the civic practice for this episode. See and ask. Ask who your city is built for and who is pushed to its margins. Notice housing, transport, water, sanitation, accessibility, public health, and participation. Verify. Examine planning documents, housing and transport data, public health evidence, consultation records, budgets, contracts, and complaint mechanisms. ACT. Conduct a safe walkthrough or document review of one urban service. Record who is included, excluded, consulted, responsible, and able to seek remedy. Do not collect sensitive identifying information or convert the exercise into a public accusation. Review. Record whether you can name the responsible institution, the evidence, the safeguard or remedy, and one safe next step. Protect victims, witnesses, families, confidential records, and digital security before taking any outward step. If planning displaces the poor, transport steals time, or public health fails, democracy becomes humiliation, exhaustion, and suffering. Urban life is not a side issue. It is where citizens meet the state most intensely. This system works for people. Or this system works for power. When a city becomes fair, the nation becomes more stable. Because citizens do not live inside constitutions. Citizens live inside streets. And in those streets, the political system either protects life or steals it. The principle to carry forward is this. The city is the most intense form of the political system, space itself is governed. Ask yourself, what part of urban governance and housing have I treated as normal even though it should be visible, answerable, and correctable? The political system is not distant. It is daily life. In the next episode, we continue with technology and skills fields. Engineers, builders, data workers, and teachers. Continue the playlist, use the worksheet, and keep the practice safe, truthful, and disciplined. The system shapes our lives. Our participation shapes the system. Subscribe. Learn. Participate. Shape the future. KJA Knowledge justifies authority.